Okay, I need your help with this. This is not a copy pasta. It's a long road, a read. Uh, but I feel like my safety or well being could very well depend on this. It's video game related, specifically Majora's Mask, and is the creepiest shit that has ever happened to me in my entire life. Having said that, I recently moved into my dorm room starting as a sophomore in college, and a friend of mine gave me his old Nintendo 64. I was stoked, to say the least. I could finally play all those games of my youth that I haven't touched in at least a decade. His Nintendo 64 came with one yellow controller and a rather shoddy copy of Super Smash Brothers. Well, beggars can't be choosers. Needless to say, it didn't take long until I became bored of beating up level 9 CPUs that weekend. I decided to drive around a few neighborhoods, about 20 minutes or so off campus, hitting up the local garage sales, hoping to score on some good deals from ignorant parents. I ended up picking up a copy of Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, fuck yeah, F-Zero, and 2 other controllers for $2. Satisfied, I began to drive out of the neighborhood when one last house caught my attention. I have no clue why it did. There were no cars, and only one table was set up with random junk on it. But something sort of drew me there. I usually trust my gut on these things, so I got out of the car and was greeted by an old man. His outward appearance was, for lack of a better word, displeasing. It was odd. If you ask me why I thought that, I couldn't really pinpoint anything. There was just something about him that put me on edge. I can't explain it at all. All I can tell you is that if it wasn't in the middle of the afternoon and there were other people within shouting distance, I would not have thought of approaching this man. He flashed a crooked smile at me and asked what I was looking for. Immediately, I noticed that he must have been blind in one of his eyes. His right one had glazed over. Look about it. I forced myself to look at his left eye instead, trying not to offend, and asked him if he had any old video games. I was already wondering how I could politely excuse myself from the situation. When he told me he had no idea about video games, but to my surprise, he then said he had a few ones in an old box. He assured me he'd be back in a jiffy, and turned to head back into the garage. As I watched him hobble away, I couldn't help but notice what he was selling on his table. Littered across it were rather peculiar things. Various networks that looked like ink blots. That a psychiatrist might show you. I looked through them. It was obvious why no one was visiting this guy's garage sale. These weren't exactly aesthetically pleasing. As I came to the last one, for some reason, it looked almost like Majora's Mask. The same heart-shaped body with little spikes protruding outward. initially, I just thought that since I was secretly hoping to find that game in garage sales, some fruity and bullshit was projecting itself into the ink blots. But given the events that happened afterwards, I'm not so sure now. I should have asked the man about it. I wish I did ask the man about it. After staring at the majora shaped blot, I looked up, and the old man was suddenly there again, arm's length in front of me, smiling at me. I'll admit, I jumped out of reflex and laughed nervously as he handed me a Nintendo 64 cartridge. It was the standard gray color, except that someone had written Majora on it in black permanent marker. I got butterflies in my stomach as I realized what a coincidence this was, and asked him how much he wanted for it. The old man smiled at me and told me uh, that I could have it for free, uh, and that it used to belong uh, to a kid that was about my age that didn't live here anymore. There was something weird about how he phrased that, but I didn't really pay any attention to it. I was too caught up in not only finding this game, but getting it for free. I reminded myself uh, 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 to be a bit skeptical, since this looked like a pretty shady cartridge and there was no guarantee it would work. But then the optimist inside me interjected. Maybe it was some kind of beta version or a pirated version of the game. Uh, 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 that was all I needed to be back on Cloud 9. I thanked the man, and he smiled at me and wished me well, saying, "Goodbye then." At least that's what it sounded like to me. All the way in the car ride home, I had a nagging doubt that he had said something else. Fears were confirmed when I booted up the game. Uh, to my surprise, it worked just fine. And there was only one save file named simply Ben. Goodbye, Ben. He was saying goodbye, Ben. I felt bad for the man. Obviously, a grandparent and obviously going senile. I, for some reason, I, for some reason or another, reminded him of his grandson, Ben. I appeared in some kind of weird Twilight Zone version of Clock Town. I walked out of the clock tower as you normally do when you start day one, only to find that all of the inhabitants were gone. Usually the fourth day glitch, you can still find the guards and the dog that runs around outside the tower. This time, they were all gone. What replaced them was the ominous feeling that there was something out there in the same area as me and that was watching me. I had 4 hearts to my name and the hero's bow, but at this point, I wasn't even concerned for my avatar. I felt that I had personally, I felt that I personally was in some kind of danger. Perhaps the most chilling thing was the music. It was the Song of Healing, ripped straight from the game itself. But played in reverse. It got louder, building up as if you should expect something to pop out at you. But nothing ever did, and the constant loop began to wear on my mental state. Every now and then, I would hear the faint laugh of the Happy Mask salesman in the background. Just quiet enough so I wasn't sure if if I'm just hearing things. But just loud enough to keep me determined to find him. I looked in all 4 zones of Clocktown, only to find nothing. No one. Textures were missing. West Clocktown had me walking on air. The entire area felt broken, hopelessly broken. As the reverse Song of Healing repeated for what must have been the 50th time, I just remember standing in the middle of South Clocktown, realizing that I had never felt so alone in a video game before. As I walked through the ghost town, I don't know whether it was the combination of out-of-place textures and the atmosphere or the haunting melody of a once peaceful and soothing song being butchered and distorted. But I was but I was literally on the verge of tears, and I had no idea why. I hardly ever cry. But something had gripped me here. With this powerful sense of depression that was both foreign and crippling. I tried leaving Clocktown, but every time I attempted to zone out, the screen would fade to black, and I would just zone into another part of Clocktown. I tried playing my ocarina. I wanted to escape, and I did not want to be here. But every time I played the Song of Time or Song of Soaring, it would only say, "Your notes echo far," but nothing happens. By this point, it was obvious the game didn't want me to leave. But I had no idea why it was keeping me here. I didn't want to go inside the buildings. I felt that I would be too vulnerable there to whatever I was terrified of. I don't know why, but I came up with the idea that maybe if I drowned myself in the laundry pool, I would spawn somewhere else and leave this place. As I zoned in and ran towards the pool, that's when it happened. Link grabbed his head, and the screen flashed for a brief moment of the happy mask salesman staring at me. Not Link. Me. With Skull Kid's scream playing in the background. When the screen returned, I was staring at the Link statue from playing the song Elegy of Happiness. I screamed as the thing just stared back at me with that haunting facial expression. I turned around and ran out and back into the South Clock Town. And to my horror, the fucking statue followed me. The only thing I can compare it to is like the weeping angels from Doctor Who. Every so often, at the random intervals, the animation would play of the statue appearing behind me. It was like the thing was chasing me, or I don't even want to fucking say it, haunting me. By this point, I was on the urge of hysterics. But not even once did the thought of turning off the console occur to me. I don't know why. I was so wrapped up in it. The terror felt so real. I tried to shake the statue, but it would literally appear right behind me every single time. Link started to begin to make weird animations I had never seen him do before. He would flail his arms around or spasm randomly. And the screen would cut out to the happy mask salesman smiling again. For a brief moment, before I was face to face with that fucking statue again, I ended up running into the Sword Master's dojo and to the back. I don't know why, but in my panic, I just wanted some kind of reassurance that I wasn't alone here. To my dismay, I found no one. But as I turned to leave, the statue cornered me in the cubby in the back. I tried attacking it with my sword, but to no avail. Confused and backed into a corner, I just stared at the statue, waiting for it to kill me. Suddenly, the screen flashed again to the happy mask salesman. Link turned to face my screen, standing upright, mirroring the statue, looking at me along with his copy, literally staring at me. Whatever was left on the fourth wall was completely shattered. While I ran out of the dojo terrified, suddenly the game warped me into the underground tunnel, and the reverse song of healing queued up again as I was given a brief moment of rest. But before the statue started appearing behind me again, this time aggressively. I could only take a few steps before it would summon behind me again. I hurriedly made my way out of the tunnel and appeared in southern Clocktown. As I ran aimlessly in a sheer panic, suddenly a Redead screamed, and the screen faded to black as Dawn of a New Day and blank appeared again. uh, the screen faded in, and I was standing on top of a clock tower with Skull Kid hovering over me again. Silent. I looked up, and the moon was back, looming just meters above my head. The Skull Kid just stared at me hauntingly with that mask. A new song was playing. The Stone Tower Temple theme, played in reverse. In some sort of desperate attempt, I equipped my bow and shot at the Skull Kid. It actually hit him and played that animation of him reeling back. I fired again. On the third arrow, a text box appeared saying, that you won't do any good. Hee hee. I was picked up off the ground and levitated upwards on my back. Link screamed as he burst into flames, killing him. As the death screen neared its end, it began to chug, as if the cartridge was trying to process a lot of something. When the screen came to, it was the same scene as the first 3 times, except this time Link was lying on the ground, dead, in a position I had never seen in the game before. His head was tilted towards the camera, with the Skull Kid floating above him. I couldn't move. I couldn't press any buttons. All I could do was just stare at Link's dead body. After around 30 seconds of this, the game simply faded out, showing the message, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" before kicking you out to the title again. Upon getting back to the title screen and starting again, I noticed my save file was no longer there. Instead of Link, it was replaced with your turn, had 3 hearts, 0 masks, and no items. I selected your turn, and immediately was returned to the clock tower rooftop scene of my dead Link and the Skull Kid hovering over, with the Skull Kids laughing, looping over and over again. I quickly hit the reset button, and when the game booted up again, there was one more save file added below your turn, entitled Ben. Ben's save file was right where it was before I deleted it. At the Stone Tower Temple, with the moon almost crashing. I turned off the game at that point. I'm not superstitious, but this is way too messed up even for me. I haven't played it at all today. Hell, I didn't even get any sleep last night. I kept hearing the reverse song of healing in my head, and just remembering the sense of dread I felt exploring Clocktown. I drove back to the old man's house today to ask him some questions with a buddy of mine. No way I was going there alone, only to find that there was a for sale sign in the front yard. When I rang the door, no one was home. So now, I'm writing down the rest of my thoughts and recording what happened. Sorry if some of this has grammatical errors and whatnot. I'm running on no sleep here. I'm terrified of this game. Even more so now that I relived it a second time writing this all down. But I feel like there's still more to it than meets the eye, and that there's something calling me to investigate this further. I think Ben is hiding. I think Ben is something in this equation, but I don't know that. If and if I could get a hold of the old man, then I would be able to find some answers. I need another day or so to recuperate before tackling this game again. I feel like it's already taken a toll on my sanity, but next time I do this, I'm going to be recording footage all the way through. The idea to record only came to me towards the end. So you see the last few seconds of what I saw, including Skull Kid and the elegy statue, but it's on YouTube here. I'm going to stay on this thread for a little longer. Before I fall asleep, to answer any questions you guys might have, or hopefully listen to your ideas or theories to help me shed some light into this, or maybe things I should try to do. I think I'm going to play Ben's File tomorrow and see what happens. Maybe I was supposed to do that all along. I don't believe in paranormal shit, but this is a little messed up. But maybe this Ben guy is just a really good hacker / programmer. I don't want to think about the alternatives if he isn't. That's the end of the copy / paste. I'm hoping that maybe this is some kind of running gag the developers had, and that other people have gotten gag or hacked copies of the game like this. This just really scares me.